Good day, everyone, and welcome to DepEd Kabuyo TV. I hope you are all doing great today. I am Teacher Lailanie, and I am here to teach and guide you to a new lesson in English 7. Today, we will be talking about phrase, clause, and sentence. Do you already have your notebook and pen with you? If you do, then let's get started. In studying English, we always encounter phrases, clauses, and of course, sentences. But what exactly are these terms? Are they important in learning the English language? In this lesson, I will help you define phrase, clause, and sentence. Also, I will help you understand the differences and the relationship among them. Basically, phrase, clause, and sentence comprise of words. They are the most important structural units of language. They also provide structure and meaning. It is a must for us to learn how to organize words in the English language by identifying these three. Now, let us discuss them one by one, starting with phrase. A phrase is a group of words that stands together as a single grammatical unit, typically as a part of a clause or a sentence. It cannot stand alone as it does not contain a subject and a verb. Also, it does not give a complete idea. It usually consists of an article, a preposition, or a noun. A phrase acts as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb in a sentence, so it can also be defined as a group of related words which lacks a verb that acts as a single part of speech in a sentence. Let us look at these examples. We have the first example on the table. If we are going to analyze it, it has neither the subject nor the verb. Also, this does not give a complete thought or idea. Therefore, it is a phrase. Next, we have finished the task. This group of words contains verb which is finished, but it doesn't have a subject. Hence, it is also an example of a phrase. Now look at this group of words, Christine and her friends. You might notice that we can consider this as a subject, however, it lacks a verb. There was no action being done by Christine and her friends, so this is also an example of a phrase. Now that you already know what is a phrase, let us talk about clauses. A clause is a group of words having both subject and a verb. It can sometimes act as a sentence, but that is not always the case. There are two types of clause, namely, the independent clause and the dependent clause. An independent clause is the one that can stand alone as a sentence. It does not require extra information for us to understand. And lastly, it has a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. Let's take, for instance, this sentence. After I die, I will be forgotten. You may notice that this sentence is divided into two. The first part is after I die, and the second part is I will be forgotten. Between these two parts, the one with the subject and the verb is I will be forgotten. The subject is I, and the verb is will be forgotten. Since it is a group of words with the subject and the verb and has a complete thought, it is an example of an independent clause. Another example is, I love my country, so I will make sure to protect its sovereignty. This sentence is also divided into two parts. The first one is, I love my country, and the second part is, so I will make sure to protect its sovereignty. Let us analyze the first part. The subject here is I, and the verb is love. This also has a complete thought and can stand alone, so this is an example of independent clause. The second part of the sentence is, so I will make sure to protect its sovereignty. This has a subject and a verb. However, it begins with a conjunction so, which makes it a clause that cannot stand alone. This now is an example of another type of clause, which is the dependent clause. A dependent clause is the one that cannot stand alone as a sentence. It is called dependent because it needs to be attached or joined to an independent clause. It is considered a supporting part of a sentence. Dependent clauses begin with subordinating conjunctions such as before, if, when, after, so, hence, therefore, since, because, so that, and many more. In the example earlier, after I die, I will be forgotten. The first part, which is after I die, is considered a dependent clause because it has a subject, which is I, and a verb, which is die. However, it begins with a subordinating conjunction after and has no complete thought. Another example is, because I woke up late, I was not able to pass my projects on time. This sentence is also divided into two parts. The first part is, because I woke up late, and the second part is, I was not able to pass my projects on time. The dependent clause in this sentence is the first part, since it has a subject and a verb but does not express a complete thought. Also, it begins with a subordinating conjunction because. Always remember, a clause has two types, namely independent and dependent clause. The independent clause can stand alone, meaning it has a subject, a verb, and has a complete thought. While dependent clause cannot stand alone since it does not express a complete thought. For you to easily identify the dependent clause in a sentence, you may look for the subordinating conjunctions first, because they will serve as your clue word. Is everything clear? Well, I guess you are now ready to learn about sentences. Let's go! A sentence is a set of words that contains a subject, which is the topic in the sentence, and a predicate, which refers to what is being said about the subject. A sentence expresses a complete thought. It begins with a capital letter and ends with a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. It is important to use proper punctuation marks in sentences. We use period in simple statements, while question mark is used in sentences that ask questions. On the other hand, an exclamation point or exclamation mark is being used in sentences that express strong emotion or feelings. Let us look at the following examples. For example, I like you. In this sentence, the subject is I and the complete predicate is like you. This has a complete thought and ends with a period. So this is an example of a sentence. Another example. Are you okay? In this sentence, the subject is you and the predicate is are okay. Although it ends with a question mark, it is a sentence as it expresses a complete thought. Last, we have look out. In this example, you might think that we only have a predicate, but there is an underlying subject which is you. This is an example of imperative sentence commanding you to look out. Hence, it is a sentence. Now let us check if you can identify a group of words as to phrase, clause, or sentence. Get your notebook and pen and try answering this activity. All you need to do is to identify whether the given group of words is a phrase, a clause, or a sentence. Write your answer in your notebook. Number 1. An empty room. Number 2. I am sick. Number 3. Horror movies lately. Number 4. While you were sleeping. Number 5. I found my coin purse under my bed. Number 6. If I were a boy. Number 7. Above the clouds. Number 8. Although she graduated. Number 9, but she fixed it. Number 10, where are you going? Here are the answers. Number 1, phrase. Number 2, sentence. Number 3, clause. Number 4, clause. Number 5, sentence. Number 6, clause. 7, phrase. Number 8, clause. Number 9, clause. And number 10, sentence. Great job! I hope you were able to get a perfect score on our activity. Before I say goodbye, let me summarize what we have talked about today. Phrase, clause, and sentence are considered the most important structural units of a language. A phrase is typically a part of a clause or a sentence and cannot stand alone. A clause, on the other hand, might have a subject and a verb or not. It has two types, namely, independent clause, which can stand alone, meaning has a complete thought, and the other one, which is the dependent clause that cannot stand alone and has a subordinating conjunction. Lastly, a sentence is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate and expresses a complete idea. It is always written in a capital letter and must end with an appropriate punctuation mark. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Again, this is Teacher Lailanie, and remember, learning English is always fun. See you next time!